Merry early Christmas to each and every one of you guys. Marvel Studios is here to deliver the goods with What If Season 2 premiering today. As you're watching this video, the first episode of What If Season 2 has premiered, and every day going forward for the next 9 days, there is a brand new episode in a package on Disney+. And I just gotta say, I think this is a great idea. I love that they're not just dropping it all at once. I like that they're giving us something nice, but what Disney was able to do is give me a nice little surprise of all 9 episodes early so I can let you guys know how this season fared. And I'm excited to talk about this because I did enjoy the first season of What If. It didn't deliver everything that I wanted, but the highs of that season were the highest. And I was excited to see the new ideas in this season. And we're going to go through each episode individually and discuss it. There will be no spoilers in this. This is a non-spoiler review for all 9 episodes. But again, like I mentioned, we're going to go through each one. I'm going to individually grade them and then give an overall grade for Season 2 of What If. But I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're coming here after a couple of the episodes come out, what are your favorite ones? Which ones are you looking forward to most? Let me know down below. And without further ado, let's dive in. If you don't know what Marvel Studios What If is about, it's about what if scenarios in the MCU. What if this happened? What if this changed? And Season 1 had some nice ideas with that, and now within What If Season 2, we're able to dive into all of that. Before we dive into each episode individually, I just want to say, first off, I really love the animation. I think the animation looks pretty much the same, but there's some little added differences here and there that make it even stronger. Alongside that, Captain Carter, there is a lot of exploration and connection tissue for her. Not all the episodes are connected, but she's in quite a few of them, and it's always interesting to me that they were showing a lot of Captain Carter in here, and maybe we'll get more of her in live action one day. And overall, this season is just as good as the first. I think it's a tad bit better than the first because a lot more of the ideas in here have this nice tie into it all. And one of the things that I was really much expressive on the way that they explored it was taking 3 or 4 different concepts from MCU movies and morphing them into one idea. And I think those are the things that excite me the most in here. So with that said, let's dive into episode 1, which was called What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps? So for me, I've always found that the Nova Corps were a little bit boring in the MCU at least. And Nebula joining them, that didn't get me too excited. But what I will give pros to this is that this episode is actually a neo-noir Blade Runner style type episode where it dives into a Blade Runner aesthetic. There's a murder mystery going on, and the neo-noir aesthetic to it all is absolutely stunning. And I think what they are able to do with the character of Nebula, how they're able to tie this into Yondu, I thought that was great. They also bring back Jude Law's character from Captain Marvel. That was nice to see. Overall, episode was quite nice. It's badass in the way that it changes certain events from, of course, Captain Marvel, how it adds into the Guardians lore and all things in nature like that. My only thing I think about this episode is that while the neo-noir murder aspect is awesome, it does just turn into another MCU thing by the end of the episode, and I would have liked them to take more of the same darker approach that the start of the episode would have had. So overall, I gave this one an 8 out of 10, a B on that scale. Pretty damn good. Up next, we had episode 2, and this one I was actually one of the most interested in, and I actually think it's one of the weakest, and that is Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest hero. So this is like, what if Peter Quill actually got delivered to his father and became the threat that his father wanted him to be? And overall, this one was cool. It's kind of like a new style of the Avengers having to team up. You have T'Challa's father, you have Hank Pym, you have Ben Foster, and some other cool little secrets in there that I'm not going to get into because those were big surprises. And I actually really liked how they touched on like an earlier aspect of the Avengers. For me, one of my favorite comic books growing up were all the big comic books where Hank Pym was a leader of the Avengers and a part of the Avengers. And to see kind of Michael Douglas's version of Hank Pym become that version was quite awe-inspiring and honestly quite exciting. But what I'll leave it to that is the episode does really slow down its pacing, and at like a 30-minute episode, it feels way longer than that. Again, one of the more weaker episodes for this entire series. Not bad, not great, just fine and good. It's one of the ones that I won't be revisiting. And honestly, I was expecting a little bit more from the back half of it, but the action and the animation were quite fun. You won't be disappointed in that for sure. I'm gonna give this one at a 7 out of 10, a C+. Next up, we have episode 3, Christmas. This is the Christmas episode. What if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? Now, I am gonna say I am very disappointed in this, mostly for the fact of where it actually ends up going. Now, I'm not going to get into where it ends up going because that would be a spoiler, but Justin Hammer is the villain of this. And when you have Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan playing in here, I expected a little bit maybe more Die Hard, kind of how like the first episode was very much Blade Runner aesthetic. This one, I wanted more Die Hard, and I think they could have gone in that route, and they sadly don't. They go in a very kooky, fun route that I think kids will like a little bit more than I personally did, and it just kind of ended up being one of those forgettable episodes. Funny moments here and there, but I didn't think Happy Hogan thankfully saved Christmas. It's not the worst out of the MCU, or the what if episodes that they've given us, but it's definitely one of the more weaker ones, and it's just one that I've kind of already forgotten after binging every single episode. It's the only one that I didn't find too memorable, so this one I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 to it as well. Brings me up to episode 4, which is What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grandmaster? Now, this episode was originally supposed to come out with season 1 because it focuses on that version of Gamora that we saw in the Guardians of the Multiverse, and overall, I really enjoyed this one. It's kind of a mix on the first Avengers film, but tying into what if Iron Man did not come home? What if he got sent to Sakaar? And the entire element of how that plays in, and Tony Stark's banter with the Grandmaster is kind of fun. And there's this whole Mario Kart type thing where they're racing instead of actually fighting in a gladiatorial pit. And I think this episode is just a blast. It has a lot of elements from Thor Ragnarok, so if you're a fan of that, you're going to enjoy this. But instead of having Hulk and Thor, it's more like Gamora, Iron Man, Korg, Valkyrie mixed in with the hijinks of Sakaar, and those were the moments that actually made me smile and laugh, and I enjoyed my time heading back to Sakaar. I enjoyed my time back with Tony Stark back on here, and I really like the developments of what they made into this version of Gamora. It was a nice little catch-up episode. I understand why they threw it into here, so all that said, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10, a B. When we hit to the episode 5 and on, this is actually where I think the season of What If really grew into its own thing and became one of the best things that I think season 2 of What If really had going for it. There's something about 5 and on that really feels like they started to understand the concept of what this needed to be and that they could flourish into a new and bright way. Episode 5 here is What If Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Now, this kind of brings vibes of Captain America the Winter Soldier, the first Avengers, Captain America First Avenger, and mushes it all together into something that actually even ties into the events of Black Widow. And I overall found this one to just be awesome. The only reason it's only getting an 8 out of 10 for me is because I actually wish it was longer. I think making this a little bit of a longer event would have been better. And in some case scenarios, I actually look at the entirety of What If, and I actually wish every episode from 5 and on were at least an hour long. I actually would have liked to have seen that than the previous 4 episodes personally, because the reimagining of the Winter Soldier and her having to fight the Hydra Stomper was great and brought back so many great feelings, and again explored Captain Carter into an even stronger development. And also the ending of this episode is great into the way that it leads into something else later in the season. This is just one of those episodes that truly and utterly delivered the goods on What If's scenario and premise, and I really dug this one. Now we have episode 6, which for the most part, I go back between this and episode 7 as being my favorite of the season. This is What If Korra Reshaped the World? Now, I might be mispronouncing that. I think that's how they said it in the show, but this is actually a brand new character that's never been inside anything in the MCU or Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's wholly original character. And imagine it's like if the Tesseract landed where like a bunch of Native Americans were, and they latched onto the powers, latched onto the energy, and latched onto that stuff. And very much the way that it shaped the world was visually beautiful, and the unique thing to see is this new character in this Marvel universe. And shout out for them also going full subtitles. I did not expect that, but it was really a great delight to see. It brought a whole nuance and actually made me feel like I was a part of the culture. But Korra is just a very unique character that my one big issue that I actually have with this season is I wish we just had one more episode dedicated straight to her. That is the one thing that I think lacks, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to one of the last What If episodes, but the entire development of what they bring about into here, and specifically even the ending, makes for such a unique character, a unique scenario, a unique situation that makes to be, again, when we talk about What If itself, it's supposed to be a unique world building type exercise, and this is the one that I think could have done that in a whole other way. And I was blown away with what they were able to do, and I'm just being selfish. I would have liked at least one more episode with her, but this episode is very wholly unique, and I'm going to stay away from anything else saying that. So this one I gave a 9 out of 10 to. Wish it was just longer. On that said, episode 7, this is What If Hela Found the 10 Rings. Now, Shang-Chi has just become and grown to be one of my favorite things the MCU has done in the last 5 years. I love Shang-Chi himself, but Wenwu, Tony Leung, was incredible in that role. And Hela, if you followed my channel for a while, you guys know that I'm a little bit disappointed with what they did with her in Thor Ragnarok, and I wanted a bit more of her in there, and I think this episode just delivers what it is. The fact that you get Wenwu and Hela and their incredible pairing, I love the final battle. I love a lot of the instances of how they build up Hela as a character, and the mix of the original Thor, but now the entire nuance of what Odin did to Thor in there, and now throwing it into Hela's life, and having Hela have to deal with this in the world of Shang-Chi was really a nice twist and turn. This one nailed exactly what I wanted. In fact, I was so surprised that it did. I remember when the first season came out, there were certain What If episodes I was like, oh, that one's gonna be my favorite. Oh, that one's gonna be favorite. And then they ended up not being my favorite. This one is on the cusp of being my favorite for this season, and I was very impressed with what they were able to do here. So that one I gave a 9 out of 10 to as well. Leading into that, we had episode 8, which is What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602, which is the follow-up from the last Captain Carter episode we got this season. And again, love, love, love the Avengers lineup in here. I love the twists and turns that they take into the 1602 entire reimagining, the entire world. All those different elements and all those different aspects really made me smile with delight to see how they were able to bring this about and how Captain Carter segued herself into all these different elements. Now, I also think the fun tie-ins and who pops up and how they relate to 1602 really just brings a nice core to it all. And also, speaking of the core of this episode, the emotional core is actually really strong and prevalent by the very end. It really sinkers you with emotion, specifically of what they've built up with Captain Carter and her relationships with the characters in this episode. Fun, unique ideas, and the twist in this one I thought was great. You see it right towards the end, and that twist, I was like, damn. That sucker punches you right in the stomach. This one I also gave an 8 out of 10 to, just, again, selfish thing. I think it should have been a little bit longer. Leading into the final episode of this season, which was episode 9, What If Strange Supreme Intervened. This one I was very excited for because Strange Supreme is personally my favorite character from season 1 of What If and what was introduced there. I love this variant of Doctor Strange, and I wanted to just keep exploring him. And while I'm a little bit sad we didn't get more of him in this season, I think it made sense for what episode 9 delivers on this premise, and the way that it, again, ties into Captain Carter, ties into episode 6 Korra, and all of these natures. And actually the way that they said that there wasn't really going to be a big through line for this entire season, but in this episode there's so many different Easter eggs and so many different things that actually do tie in, and it did in the end of the day. While not as big as the Guardians of the Multiverse, it's still all tied together, and I thought it was brilliant the way that it came together. And this one's a little bit harder to talk about because it does spoil other things, so I'm not going to get too big into this. But again, like I mentioned, the way that it ties into the previous episodes I thought was great. Twist at the very start I thought was also very unique in the way that it actually goes, oh, okay, this is the what if. Oh, no, it's actually going into this. That's cool. The amount of characters, the amount of tie-ins, the amount of Easter eggs are all really much a nice surprise. I found episode 9 to just be a nice delivery of what this was and satisfied my needs for What If. And It kind of is the same feelings I had when I watched the Guardians of the Multiverse team up from the original first season of What If, and also leading into this. Not too emotional. I did like the ending of this episode. I thought it was great, and I think it really leads into a great stuff for what we could possibly get in season 3 of What If. But looking at this, it's kind of just like, oh, this is kind of throwing everything at the kitchen sink and having a blast. So this episode I gave an 8 out of 10 to, just like the last one. What If Season 2 is just awesome. Better than the first, as it goes to greater lengths to play with the idea what if some concepts play a mix-up of MCU movies while others play off movies/genres. An episode very much is just dedicated to Blade Runner. I thought episodes 5 through 9 were all excellent. Episodes 1 and 4 are great. Episodes 2 and 3 are the weakest, but still entertaining. While there are certain characters in here that I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of, surprisingly, there's no Spider-Man in here. And even alongside that, I was really happy to see what they were able to do with the Hulk this season. A lot of nice surprises there. What If Season 2 just delivers more of what we liked from the first season. If you like the first season of What If, you'll probably like this one even more. You'll have your favorites, you have your least favorites, but that's all up for the fun discussion down below in the comment section. All that said, I'm going to give this Season 2 of What If a B+. So much again, guys, for watching this. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Leave your thoughts. What is your favorite What If episode so far? Did you already watch this? Or are you watching this video after they all premiere? Let me know down below. And of course, until next time, stay classy.